So, our first article is about the US's escalation with China in kind of further recognizing Taiwan as its own separate country and giving them military aid and doing all of these political stunts. And I honestly have no idea why they're doing this. It seems just like shooting yourself in the foot, you know? We're going to get into the article. We're going to break it down. Let's do it. So our first article comes from Jacobin. It's an article by Branko Marcetic. The U.S.'s Taiwan policy could provoke another dumb and dangerous war. Last week, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee approved by a 17-5 vote the Taiwan Policy Act, called by its authors the most comprehensive restructuring of U.S. policy towards Taiwan since the Taiwan Relations Act of 1979, which was to set the ground rules for U.S. relations with Taiwan after Washington reestablished diplomatic ties with the mainland. The new bill's headline provisions entail a change in U.S. policy to treat Taiwan as a major non-NATO ally, and to that end, authorize $6.5 billion worth of military aid for training, equipment, and weapons, as well as prepare for a suite of sanctions should a Chinese attack on the country materialize. So again, I don't see the strategic value of doing this. All this is going to do is anger China, and in my opinion, make them more aggressive towards Taiwan, make them feel like they have a shorter window of opportunity to unify Taiwan with the mainland, and just further divide the world, man. And China is a major exporter to the U.S., obviously. So, I mean, this could cause economic harm for the U.S. and Western countries. This could cause geopolitical instability. Like the only reason I could see why these freaking neocon warhawks are trying to push this bullshit is again just for the sake of saber rattling and trying to appear strong when they feel like the U.S. is weakening, you know? The text of the bill was reportedly changed after Joe Biden's administration expressed concerns that its original language would shred the One China policy that's underlain stable and peaceful relations between Beijing and Washington for decades. Rather than being designated a major non-NATO ally, as the bill's text put first, Taiwan will now be treated as though it were designated the label, and there's no longer a direction to change the name of what is effectively Taiwan's U.S. embassy, but rather a recommendation. At the same time, lawmakers have added $2 billion more military aid to the regional sum of $4 million. I mean, they can switch around the words all they want. I mean, what they're doing is escalation. Make no mistake about it, you know? I disagree. I love this new language, but you and I are wildly different. I def see what you mean, man. Shit. Wait, I disagree. I love this new language. Oh, you love this new language. I don't know if you're being sarcastic again, but I mean, I really don't think it changes much. You know, like you had Pelosi go and meet with Taiwan leadership, and then you had people riding her coattails doing the same bullshit. I think keeping Taiwan out of Chinese hands is super important. I mean, I disagree, man. I mean, I don't want them to be in Chinese hands. I think they're their own country at this point and should just do whatever they feel like doing. But I don't think it's worth risking war over Taiwan. You know, like, if China does decide to invade Taiwan and try and take control over it, there is going to be destruction and devastation. But if the U.S. tries to militarily intervene, then it's just going to be, like I've said before, literally World War III, and nobody wants that. That's not going to end well, you know? Yeah, man, you know, that's just how I feel about the situation. Yeah, so These changes haven't reassured the Chinese government, which still views the bill as a challenge to the One China policy. That careful diplomatic arrangement involves Washington's recognition of Beijing as the sole legitimate government of all of China while remaining agnostic on the question of which government is sovereign over Taiwan and opposing the island's absorption back into the mainland force. The One China principle is the political foundation of China-U.S. relations, China's foreign ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said in the wake of the bill's approval. According to its proponents, the rationale of the bill is to serve as credible deterrence against China. Supposedly, this will reduce the chance of a military offensive by Beijing against the island by not showing weakness in the face of Chinese threats and by raising the cost of taking the island force so that it becomes too high a risk and unachievable. And again, like I said, if shit like this ends up happening, or if China feels slighted enough to put pressure on the U.S., I mean, it could even more severely hamper the U.S. economy and further extend and exacerbate the economic downturn that we're going through. Because, like I said, we heavily rely on China for trade, and most of the world heavily relies on China for trade. So it's just not smart, man. It really isn't. I always advocate for building bridges internationally instead of burning them, man, you know? But as former U.S. Naval War College professor Lyle Goldstein told Jacobin last month, the bill could easily have the opposite effect, leading Chinese leadership to decide that invading now is its best option, since ever-intensifying U.S. military support for the island may make delaying a potential invasion more costly for it. Even one of the yes votes on the Senate committee, Senator Mitt Romney, explicitly acknowledged the risk. We're doing something that's highly provocative and bellicose, and just fucking pointless, dude. Come on, like, what is this? It doesn't accomplish anything, man. I mean, good, I guess, if the people of Taiwan feel more safe, but I think it's an illusion of safety, man. This just makes things more unstable and the world more dangerous, in my opinion. It accomplishes a ton. Again, man, I'm just going to have to disagree with you. This is just the latest Democrat-led provocation this year over China, which has long made clear that it sees the issue of sovereignty over Taiwan, or sovereignty over Taiwan, as a core national interest over which it is willing to go to war. House Speaker Representative Nancy Pelosi's controversial August visit to Taiwan inflamed tensions and sparked Chinese reprisals in the form of threatening military drills and breaking off dialogue with Washington. Since then, at least 3 more delegations of U.S. officials have replicated Pelosi's trip, while the U.S. Navy has continued a long pattern of sending warships through Chinese waters. So, I mean, what can you call that besides provocation, man? You know? And because of this, China has been doing more war games closer and closer to Taiwan's borders. They've been sending missiles that like land in the water right up on, Taiwan, and just it's playing with the tinderbox, man. Like, and it could explode at any moment, you know. I also wanted to kind of go into a little bit of some more of the repercussions from all this bolstering of Taiwan in this article right here. So this article is titled "China Cuts Off Vital U.S. Contacts Over Pelosi Taiwan Visit." This article is by Ellen, Nick Meyer, Zeke Miller, and David Rising. China cut off contacts with the United States on vital issues Friday, including military matters and crucial climate cooperation, as concerns rose that the communist government's hostile reaction to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's Taiwan visit could signal a lasting, more aggressive approach towards its U.S. rival in the self-ruled island. China's move to freeze key lines of communications compounded the worsening relations from Pelosi's visit and from the Chinese response with military exercises off Taiwan, including firing missiles that splashed down in surrounding waters. After the White House summoned China's ambassador Qin Gang later Thursday to protest the military exercises, White House spokesperson John Kirby on Friday condemned the decision to end important dialogue with the United States as irresponsible. The White House spokesman blasted China's provocative actions since Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, which China claims as part of its territory. But Kirby noted that some channels of communications remain open between military officials in two countries. He repeated daily assurances that the U.S. had not changed its policy toward the communist mainland and the self-ruled island. So again, you already see those repercussions, the deepening of distrust and hostility towards these two huge superpowers. Man, like I said, we can agree to disagree, I guess. I just think that it's not good, man. I think there needs to be nuance in these situations. I think that de-escalation is the name of the game, you know?